I'd like to introduce Dr. David Haviland, or Professor, I'm not sure. Mr. David Haviland. From the University of California, we're very pleased to have you and excited and privileged to have you come and talk to us about integrated pest management, particularly on issues that you know are relevant to Australia. David is one of the co-editors of the Pistachio Growers Manual from the University of California, so we're really very great to have you. Thank you very much.
Great. All right. Thank you. So, there you go. Hear me in the back? We're good? Awesome. Yeah, thank you for the invitation. So I'm actually, I've been granted a sabbatical leave by the University of California, which if you're not familiar with that means about every 10 years we're allowed to do something different. You know, just kind of break the monotony, go learn a new skill, go share information, go get information, that type of thing. And part of my plan was to come to the Mildura area for 3 months, just because we are very similar in many different things, including pistachios. And just to kind of orient you, classic map of California, I'm the yellow dot right there, based in Bakersfield in the southern part of the San Joaquin Valley. And my job is with the university, and to say, you know, Mr. Haviland, I don't have a PhD, it's not required for my job. I'm part of the extension arm of the University of California. So I'm kind of like a professor. I do a lot of research, but all my research is on a farm. I do a lot of teaching, but I don't teach students, I teach farmers. So I do probably 40 to 50 presentations a year with farmer groups. I cover all the different crops that we grow in the South Valley. So yeah, I know science, but I'm not a scientist, full-blown scientist. I'm not a farmer, but you know, I can drive a tractor, I do have an applicator license, and I can actually pull a straight row. So, okay. So with that said, in the Southern Valley here, there we go. So I'm in that sort of circle area there. Our top 4 crops are grapes, citrus, almonds, and pistachios. Each of those are in the 100 to 200,000 hectare range within that circle. And all of those are 2 to 4 billion US dollar commodities. So I'm at the heart of what you might call big ag in the Central Valley here. So I'm going to talk just about a few different pests. I just came halfway around the world to get away from these, and Trevor just reminded me they exist. So I'll talk about them. But navel orangeworm is basically our carrot moth. Very closely related, okay? You can't tell the two larvae apart with the naked eye. You kind of have to look at the pupae. But just like your carrot moth, it's in the kernels exclusively, causing damage, almonds, pistachios, and so on. One difference though, we have 4 generations per year instead of 3, and they sync up perfectly, not in our favor regarding the crop cycle. So the 3rd flight hammers us right at the start of hull slip, and the 4th flight comes in right when we're shaking, first shake. So sometimes we can get the first shake off before the 4th flight, sometimes the 4th flight comes in and just hits us before we can get the first shake done. But big issues, and then of course navel orangeworm vectors or carries aspergillus fungi that result in aflatoxins. And aflatoxins are very heavily related, or very heavily regulated in some of our export markets like the European Union. So we've got to be very, very careful to control this to take care of our aflatoxin issues. And as far as navel orangeworm goes, we have almonds and walnuts and pistachios as hosts. All combined, that's about 800,000 hectares of nut crops that this worm loves to eat. So it's everywhere. So really quickly, what do we do about it? I'm sure you'll see parallels with your carrot moth. Okay, 4 pillars. We've got sanitation, or hygiene, as you often call it here, mating disruption, our insecticides, and then timely harvest. So on the winter sanitation front, I've come to realize that, talking to almond growers mostly, that hygiene, the term hygiene here and our sanitation, there's some differences in standards in what that means, okay? So when I say sanitation, that means shaking the tree, poling the tree, okay, knocking the mummies off. In pistachios, cleaning the crotches, especially in older trees, you can get a lot of nuts just stuck in the crotch, especially if they're still kind of on the rachis. And then blowing into the middles, mowing, which for us is usually a flail mower, and then sometime mowing again. Almonds, one time through, we're good. Pistachios, though, if you ever tried to take a flail mower to a pistachio, you learn that they're kind of like little marbles, and they just chung, 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 they just kind of shoot around all over the place. It's hard to really shred them up. So I know here you use mulchers a little bit more. We can't really do that because you get pebbles and rocks and things more. It's more common to have that in our soil, and you can't pulverize something into flour if you've got rocks, in the mix. So that's what we do. But more importantly, here's why we do it. So this chart here on the x-axis is the number of mummies on a tree. This is almonds. I don't have pistachio data on this. Paper, by the way, I think is accepted. But mummies on the x-axis, damage on the y-axis. And what you can see here is as you go from, let's say 20 down to 10 mummies, you reduce damage a little bit. It's coming down. That's nice. In this case, if you go from 20 to 10, you reduce damage by 3%. But if you start getting over here, what you notice is, in this case, all you did is decrease it by 2, and you got 3%. Okay? So what's going on here? When we're just doing this higher level sanitation, we're reducing the number of worms. Okay, that helps. But when we're getting down here, for those of you who can't read this in the back, so down here, when this curve goes downward, we're reducing the number of worms, but then anything that survives struggles to find a mate. Okay? And then anything that does find a mate has to find somewhere to lay an egg. And if you only got 2 mummies per tree, they got to fly all over the place to find one of them, then all over the place to find another one, then go to another tree to find the third one. And by the time you try to lay 50 eggs, you just ran out of energy after 10. Okay? So all of these mechanisms combined are powerful, but you got to be down in the really low sanitation, excellent hygiene category to get down there. Now, this is all based on navel orangeworm. David Madge, do you think this is relevant for Carpophilus beetle? Okay, I'm seeing a nod, which probably should be a loud amen, right? Yeah, amen. These same principles apply across all these different pests. So this is why we do it. Now, what does that mean? For us, where I am, we get about 180 millimeters of rain per year. Kind of comparable to you in this area, but it does come in the winter. So we wait for a rain or a fog in the winter, because that's going to help that mummy have some weight, some ballast to it. That's when we shake the trees. And then, all right, we'll just go for it. So we'll do that, get the nuts off the trees. This is our pulling cruise. Now, in almonds, we shoot for 2 per tree, okay? I'll talk, that number I wouldn't recommend for you, okay? I'm just saying that's where we go, is 2 per tree. In pistachios, though, don't count the blanks. Okay? If it's a blank on a tree, if it's closed shell, the worms can't get into it. You're not really worried about it for the beetles. So don't try to get every single one off, because those blanks are the toughest ones to get off. If you're wasting $40 an hour, trying to knock off blanks, you're wasting your time. Okay? It's the split ones you care about. Now, once they're down, blowers, sweepers, pulverizers, whatever it is. Sometimes we can do disking for navel orangeworm. Of course, the Carpophilus beetle, the disking doesn't help. So we're having to rethink how we do things there. And then we just let the birds, the ants, the moisture and things finish the job. Now, this is our big difference. We don't have the lorikeets and the rosellas and the cockatoos and all the above. So what would your threshold be? I would say your threshold is getting the mummies down to a level that whatever your bird population is capable of taking the rest out. Is that fair? Right? If you're a small orchard right by the river with a bazillion birds, maybe you don't need to do anything because they take care of everything. Okay? If you're large acreage farther away with less birds, maybe if you can just shake and get 90% of them off, maybe that's good enough that the last 10% the birds can get. That's something you'll have to figure out site by site, based on your scenario. But the principle is here of what you're trying to accomplish. Now, average sanitation costs, shake, pole, blow, sweep, flail mow for us is about, it's about 950 Australian dollars per hectare. That's what we spend. It can be anywhere from 400 to 1600. Why do we do that? Well, why would we spend 950 Australian dollars? If you got 3,000 kilos sitting out there at let's say $8 plus.
We're talking pistachios.
Pistachios. What's your average yield in pistachios here?
Good orchards 4.
Average. I'm not out.
Average.
We got sixes. We've got sixes too. I'm just saying, what's an average?
Average is 2.5 on and off.
Okay, so our average is about 3 on and off. Okay, so pretty ballpark, right? Well, 3,000 pounds to the acre, which is fairly close to 3,000 kilos per hectare. Okay, so yeah, if you're in that average across years of 3,000, is 8.3 an average long-term price for you? What's an average?
About 9.
9. Okay, so I'm off by 10%. Not too bad. All right. If you use 8.3 and you use 3,000 and you assume 10% damage, that's $2,500 per hectare. So we spend 1,000 to protect that kind of losses. The break-even ballpark, again, very back of the napkin, is 3.5%. If you can reduce damage by 3.5%, you paid your costs. So you'll have to figure out personally, does that make sense for you or not? But this is kind of our math translated to kilos and metric and hectares and all. And then remember, by doing this, you're not only providing carrot moth, but also Carpophilus beetle damages. And then remember, I didn't take into account the birds and their value in this. So that's kind of the best I can do on the numbers for you. Okay, moving on to our next pillar, mating disruption. It's something we have, something you don't have, but just very quickly let you know, we have products that are aerosol cans, we have meso emitters, we use these pretty well. Here's an example of reductions in moth captures we get with aerosol products, reductions in moth captures with meso emitters that are kind of plastic strips, and then we didn't get reduction with sprayable products. Okay? So not all work, okay? And different ones have been tried in different places, but at the end of the day, we get about 60% reduction in damage with mating disruption products.
So is it the same in pistachio as well?
It is, yep.
Right across the two?
Yeah, same kind of thing. Yeah, so same kind of thing in pistachio. This is almond research, but the bottom line is in California now, we have over 200,000 hectares of growers that have adopted mating disruption between almonds, pistachios, and walnuts. So these are what my research data says, which is thousands of hectares of research. But 200,000 hectares of grower testimonials, that means something. Obviously they wouldn't do it if they didn't see the benefit, and they keep using it year after year. So, hopefully down the road, this is something that can be explored further. The scientists that do mating disruption are getting better and better at formulations and chemistries and all that. So, we'll see. Hopefully 5 years down the road, half your meeting is about how to implement mating disruption. I don't know. Insecticides, we do use them. Absolutely, part of our program. Just 3 different trials here to show you the basic products. These are gonna sound familiar. We use Intrepid, methoxyfenazide. We use Alticor, chlorgeniliprol. We do use pyrethroids, like bifenthrin, but we have resistance in a lot of cases. And so, kind of used to use them, but don't really anymore. And then I put this trial in here because all 3 of these green ones you can see is a new product, Syngenta, called planazoline. It's not registered in the United States yet. It is now registered for almonds in Australia. We have seen some good activity on navel orangewort. I would expect that you would see something similar for carrot moth. And based on posters and things at the Almond R&D Forum this week, it looks like that product has some Carpophilus beetle activity also. So now it's always tricky. It's easy to kill a beetle when you spray something on a beetle. When it's inside a kernel, inside a shell, inside a hull, obviously there's other reasons it may or may not work. But that will be an interesting chemistry for the pistachio industry to watch over time as far as requesting tolerances and things like that. And then timely harvest for us. Obviously, the earlier you harvest your crop, the better you're going to be. These are actual data from some of our processors. On the bottom here, so 2 different years. This is degree days from January 1, just so we can take different regions of California and normalize the data. But you can see the damage there is by degree day. If you crunch the numbers, every 210 degree days, okay, that's about 10 actual days, damage doubled. Okay? Any of you that know statistics, that is a beautiful tight curve. Okay? Data do not look that beautiful very often to scientists. And so we just tell a grower, hey, if you shake today and you got 2%, if you wait 10 days, you're gonna have 4. You wait 10 more days, you're gonna have 8. That is the reality. And so sometimes when people say, we need to reduce our damage, what should we spray? It's you want to reduce your damage, buy another damn harvester. Okay, I mean, obviously they're expensive, obviously you're contracting that out, but there is something to say for more equipment, more timely harvest as a cultural practice to reduce damage versus the classic, let's try to spray something to kill things. So, okay, so that's basically our summary of what we do with navel orangeworm. Jump into some other topics here to keep going through this. Carpophilus beetle, I'm just going to touch very quickly. We do have this pest now in California. We're trying to learn about it just like you are. Now you've got the advantage, and really quick, I want to introduce the team back here. So if you want to turn around and look at the back, David Madge, wave. David's more than a decade of experience working with Carpophilus beetle in almond systems. Okay, a lot of information applies. Samantha in the back. David's in the holiday, I'm about to retire phase of career. Samantha's the young, energetic, going to solve your problems for the next 30 years, part of her career. So make sure you meet her today. Also, Houston Wilson in the middle. University of California, Riverside. He's kind of leading our efforts in California on Carpophilus beetle. He's out here for the R&D forum. And then Jalinda Rajal in the back there also has a very similar job to me in the Northern Valley. So Team Carpo, go. We're going bowling on Friday night. We're going to get shirts and everything with names. So, all right. But a few things, so yeah, some things from almonds do come over. Some things don't. So there's people trying to figure that out. Houston got a picture this morning. What do we figure? 17 Carpophilus beetle larvae in one cracked open pistachio. Okay, so we're right in the middle of harvest.
We got 28 this season.
28. We have a winner. Anyone above 28?
I have the videos and photos.
Do I have 30? Do I have 30? Do I have 30? Okay.
28.
All right. Now, so here's the bigger question though. So we now know that 30 can be in a kernel. But are 30 in every kernel, or is that the one freak kernel out of 1,000? Right? What's the distribution? How much damage is there really? And we're still trying to figure that out in California. We just don't know how big of a problem this is going to be. Our climate's a little drier than yours. They can't really get in the nut until the shell is split. We do shake twice everything, so those nuts are coming off pretty quick. So I don't know. We have a lot to learn, but we're working with the AgVic people very closely. The biggest kind of new thing is a trap. So they've got a trap, doing rollouts and testing with the almond industry, working to get that commercialized. Hopefully next year is kind of the timeline that's on, but it's being tested here. At the end of the year, you send us the traps and say, hey, this worked, but here's the 5 new iterations of that might be better. While your bugs are sleeping in the winter, we're doing the tests in our summer, and then we send our results to you. So we're doing a 2 years of research every year by collaborating back and forth. So trying to expedite this for your industry. And for us too, obviously self-interested that we all have this. The more product that can be used, the higher the volumes, the cheaper the price, everybody wins. Let's see. Yeah, so we're working on all the same things that you guys are. Okay, something you don't have, but I do think it's important to cover. You know, someone says, what skills should pistachio growers have as far as pest management? You need to know small and large bugs, right? Small bugs, these are mirids. Ligus is common for us. The bottom left is Calicoris. That was on Trevor's list of things you don't want. But you do have things like apple dimpling bug. You do have things like the Rutherglen bug. Okay, these small little bugs that they're on cover crops, they're on weeds, they're on the canola, wherever they're coming from. You know, they're kind of all over the place. Well, why are these important? So early in the season before the shell hardens, they can sting the nuts. And you know, you can see here, you know, you get this kind of black BB-sized nut, shrivels up, and will abort. Now, if you got 50 nutlets on the rachis, do you keep all 50? Of course not. Like half of them are going to fall off. So, you know, if a couple stings are there and you lose a couple nuts, no big deal, because more were going to fall off anyways, and you're right back where you started. However, these bugs can come in waves, and not just California, but lots of different countries, particularly at this time, to the point that you're actually losing nuts that the tree wanted to keep. And you know, big reductions in yield. Yeah, you get an epicarp lesion results and so on, or aborts and whatever. So not going to say much more about this other than get a lid to a garbage can this time of year, turn it upside down, take a stick, whack the clusters, see what falls out. Okay? That's how we monitor for this kind of pest. It's pretty simple, but it's also how you can look for natural enemies, because the lacewings will fall out and anything else that's in the cluster. So it's just a good general practice before the shell hardens, just to see what's in your system, and if this kind of bug's there, you'll find it. Now the large bugs, these are like leaf-footed bugs and stink bugs. You can see several species we have right here. These are much more stout insects, straw-like, more stout mouth part. They can actually drill into pistachio nuts later in the season. They don't go straight through the side. They go through what we call the Achilles heel, which is right where the little pedestal comes in. There's a soft spot, you know, right where all the carbohydrates are going in, right where that nut's attached. They'll drill in there and cause damage. So those were adults. Immatures look like this. They change colors by species, by life stage, but they're all kind of this round shape. The eggs on the top right are sort of barrel shaped. Last night, we were walking right here. Jalindra pulled the bark off a eucalyptus tree, literally where I could throw a rock, and there's 2 stink bugs in diapause overwintering. Okay? So I've heard people say they're not really a problem here, but I know you have stink bugs because in 30 seconds, Jalindra found 2 on the tree out the back door here. So, you know, so this is, I'm just saying, watch for them. If you see them in the trees, the type of damage they can cause. Oh, before I get to the damage, brown marmorated stink bug. I don't know how well it's going to do in this climate. Okay, it tends to like places with colder winters, where there's more rainfall, so I don't know. But as we heard at the almond conference yesterday, like 2 years ago there were 7 interceptions. Last year there were 70 interceptions. It's coming. Okay, it's now a major pest of almonds in Spain. It's now a major pest of almonds in Italy. It's moving throughout the world. It is something you should be very vigilant about. And then leaf-footed bugs are kind of similar, you know, these big sucking insects. But here's the damage. So they'll drill through the sides. You can get completely aborted kernels. In here, there was a sting, and a sting. You get the kernel necrosis. And then if the mouth part goes in and introduces like a yeast or a bacteria or something, you get what's called stigmatomycosis, which means that the entire kernel turns slimy and rots. So this can look like, has a lot of different looks. You can see we've got some of all 3 of those types. So if you got nuts like this, and you're like, ooh, what happened to my nuts? Okay, that potentially is stink bug during that middle to late season part of the period when, or any kind of large bug during that mid to late season after the shell hardens, when they could still get in there. So good basic skills, know what causes this.
David,
Yes.
do they get to the young ones as well? Do they actually attack young?
So they
young
do.
fruit?
So they do get to the young ones as well, but generally speaking, with their biology,
Fits more with
it fits more with the later. Yeah, yeah, and they don't sting a lot of nuts.
No.
And so those 2 bugs that we saw in diapause, if they fly into an orchard right now, they're probably going to go to weeds or something, riparian areas, that kind of stuff. They really want to feed on seeds. There is no kernel in a pistachio right now, right? Or even the first half of the season there isn't. So they'll tend to be other places, and then once you start getting a kernel, now it's more attractive. The second generation is flying into the trees and doing the things. So that's where you got to watch out for them. Yeah, great question. Yeah, so monitoring and management, again, sweep nets on the ground cover, beet samples. This is a sort of version of a beet sheet. You just got a little hold there, stick, and whack the tree, see what falls out. And if they're there, you'll find them. Biological controls on stink bugs are actually pretty poor. It's typically egg parasitoids, and stink bugs spend about 6 months in the winter in diapause as adults. So if you sting eggs and your host has no eggs for 6 months, how do you survive the winter? It's tough. And so that's about it. Generalist predators, aren't quite that good. So unfortunately for stink bugs, broad spectrum pyrethroids are how we have to control them. And no one ever wants to go there because then you're killing your natural enemies and causing other problems. So lastly, I just have a couple slides here. Mealybugs. So I know you don't have mealybug pests here. It wasn't on Trevor's list. Well, we should add this one. Gill's mealybug came into California about 20 years ago. Originally, we thought it was what's called striped mealybug, Faurecia virgata. I've looked online. Faurecia virgata is in the northern part of Australia. It is in East Australia. So if it shows up in pistachios someday, I have no reason to think it couldn't be a major pest. So stay vigilant on this one. In the spring, they come out right on the new buds as they're starting to push. They're feeding on carbohydrates right there. And over time, middle of summer, you'll see the next generation look like this. They've got live birth. There's probably, 300 mealybugs on that little cluster right there. And in about 6 weeks, the cluster will look like this.
What are you using to kill it with?
Oh, come on.
It's very hard now.
I'll get there. So this is what it looked like at harvest. You just want to read the back page of the book without reading the chapters in the middle. Come on.
That's a probably not in the table grape industry.
Right, yep. Yeah, I just gave 2 talks last week on long-tailed mealybug with the grapes. We've got 40,000 hectares of table grapes in Kern County, and we have vine mealybug, which we have long-tailed mealybug that you have, which is easy to control, and then we have vine mealybug that's a nightmare. So I've been there, I get it. Yeah, so, but this is what you'll look like at harvest. This is just a tree that had a good insecticide treatment versus a tree that didn't. Obviously, you don't want your nuts to look like the tree on the right. And what's the damage? The biggest damage is actually, so mealybugs feed on carbohydrates. So when a mealybug is feeding on carbohydrates on the hull, it's intercepting carbohydrates that would have gone to the kernel. So you end up with smaller kernels. Smaller kernels, because of the way pistachios ripen, it's the kernel's physical force that causes the shells to open. So if you have smaller kernels, you come back with a lower percentage in-shell nuts at your crack out. And so you might go from 70% by weight split in shell to 65 or something. And split in shell nut, in our system, you get paid for the weight of the kernel on the shell. Closed shelling stock, you only get paid for the weight of the kernel. So every nut that doesn't split loses half the value to a grower. That's our model. I assume you have something similar here in Australia. But because of that, we do have to control the mealybug. And that's in addition to some stick tights. We do get some more dark staining on the split in shell, which of course is a defect also, and so on. If it's really bad, we get what we call gumming in the trailers. So go into your grape example. Have you ever grabbed a grape cluster full of long-tailed mealybug? What did your hand feel like afterwards? Right.
Sugar.
Now imagine you went to a pistachio tree grabbed it with a harvester, shook the snot out of it, completely filled a trailer with pistachios like what I saw, or showed you here. In the bins, they kind of start to sweat, right? A little water. What happens to honeydew with a little sweat? Sticky, gooey. They drive to the processor, drive over the water bath, chink chink, open the hopper, and nothing comes out. It's a big block. And so now they're in there with like garden hoses, shooting water to try and dissolve the honeydew, poking sticks from the bottom to try and get the actual pistachios to come out of the hopper at the bottom of the trailer. Nasty. You don't ever want that to happen. Okay, so, and then down here I just put processors do not report mealybug damage. So, you know, if you got 65% by weight split in shell, you don't know if you would have had 70 or not. It's not like carrot moth or something where, you know, there's actual percent number of defects for insects. So, yeah, how do we manage it? We've got an IPM program. If you actually get it someday, invite me back. I'll go through all the details. But we know the phenology. We know where it is. We have products like buprofuscin, spirotetramat, acetamiprid, which are things that you have here. We target crawlers in the middle of the summer. The programs are actually quite effective as far as an IPM overall thing goes. So, yeah. And then hygiene to prevent spread. So we do clean equipment when it's going from one site to another to make sure we don't spread it, as well as harvest bins and things when they're going to a processor and then coming back to get reloaded. So with that, that's just kind of my whirlwind summary of California entomology. But I do want to point out a couple of resources. University of California statewide IPM program does have our website. Just Google UC IPM and click on ag, click on pistachio, full-blown guidelines, identification to every one of our insects, every one of our diseases, biocontrol, insecticides, how to manage them. We have guidelines for grapes too, if you want to look on that. 40-something crops, we have these. It's all free online. Please use it. The second is the Pistachio Production Manual. 321 pages, 200 plus pictures, 60 plus diagrams, 42 different authors. It's a lot of people, put a lot of time and effort into this. It took us about 10 years to put this together, but a great resource. I hope you have it. It's like 135 Australian dollars to buy it. If you can't find $135 worth of value in this book, like just email me and I'll personally refund you while I smack you up. Because you know, there's no way. And then with that, just one little plug. So the lead author on this, or lead technical editor, Louise Ferguson, she and her sort of replacement in December will be here helping to do a pistachio short course. That is my name on the right-hand side. I did all the pest management side of this book. But Louise, Julia, and myself will all be here in December for that pistachio short course. I will not give the same talk at that. Okay? This was what's going on in California talk. At that, it'll be more like how do you manage pests here kind of talk at the short course. So I hope you take advantage of these folks, because it's probably better to spend whatever they're charging here to come see this version than to spend 3 times as much plus all the travel costs to go to California to go do it there, and I don't even know when we're doing it next. So please take advantage in December. I hope to be able to see all of you there. And with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, David. That was fantastic, I must say. I find insects boring but costly, but you made it exciting.
We have a convert. He's repented.
That was
Thank you.
brilliant and good interlude. That short course is so valuable. If you're not signed up, you really should in December. To get Louise Ferguson here for 2 days is brilliant. It's a coup for the industry. You might miss Disneyland in California, but you've seen the Mighty Murray. And if you're not there, there's something horribly wrong.
Just check. We have sent out numerous emails about this. If you haven't heard and you are a member, please come and talk to Stacey or myself. All members should have received information about this. There is an opportunity for non-members at a high cost. Come and talk to us if you'd like to participate in it. We really hope you do, because it'll be a mammoth.
We should have that menu on sale that day.
I'd sign them for you even. Free it.